Hey, this is Pat Freeman here on the network with my buddy Chris Stevenson. How you doing, Chris?
What's going on, Patrick?
We are back here on the network once again, looking at the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is our second part of a series that we're doing, looking at why it needs to be reopened and looked at immediately. How Dr. Martin Luther King, one of the most charismatic leaders of the 20th century, was cut down in a sophisticated, orchestrated hit on one of the greatest leaders that we've had during the 20th century of this year and of all time. He is the only African American that has a dedication statue on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., which was recently dedicated in October. And now we're looking at how the tragic death occurred in Memphis, Tennessee on April the 4th, 1968. Chris, what are your thoughts on the assassination as we continue to talk about the assassination of Dr. King?
Well, you know, my respect for King, which has always been sky high anyway, gets a little higher all the time every time I look into the circumstances of his death. This man was the real deal, okay? And the fact that so much time and energy was expended to end his life. It wasn't like maybe with Medgar Evers, who was murdered by Joe the plumber, Joe Sixpack. Okay, right. Just a lone gunman, posted across the street from his house, waiting for him to get out the car and walk up his driveway. This is something that was initiated by military intelligence, and they planned for years to do this. And in that book, Orders to Kill by William Pepper, you'll see where there was more than one hit squad that was at the locations perched around the Lorraine Motel on April 4th, 1968. So you had at least 3 or more hit squads there, not just the squad that shot him and hit him, but there was others that had him in their crosshairs also.
One of the military assigned groups was the Elite Alpha 184 sniper unit, was dispatched to the Memphis area and was in the area during the assassination of Dr. King. Why aren't these things talked about?
You know, the funny thing is, and they're all documented. Obviously, there are people out there that control whether or not something is talked about so that it becomes a household knowledge. Instead, the alleged assassin or the so-called assassin, what's his name? James
Earl Ray.
That's a household name.
Yes.
Okay. Turns out James Earl Ray was not the person.
Right.
All right. So yeah, it's so complicated, and when you see things like this happening, when that's not common knowledge, but it's evident that it did happen. That means powerful forces are keeping it from the mainstream. Plain and simple. So,
right. And this is something. There were several things that really starts making you question. To get to a leader such as Dr. King that had been through the car bombings, had been through the beatings, had been through the fire hoses, had been through state troopers and the brutality associated with armed nonviolent protests. He was well insulated as a leader. And in order to get to him, there had to be people around him that were co-opted in allowing this murder to occur. Yeah. How do you see that? There's certain names that have come up as questionable that were associates of Dr. King and have been found to be either informants or have been co-opted in their actions.
Well, we discussed Jesse Jackson last week.
Right.
That's a name Jesse Jackson's a household name, but in relation to that aspect of the King situation, nobody really knows about that. Nobody discusses that. That's not common knowledge. You had that other Reverend, what's his name, Billy Ray Kyle.
Reverend Samuel Billy Kyle.
Yeah, Samuel Billy Kyle.
Known Memphis police informant.
Exactly. Here's a guy, as I watched once again last night on YouTube, on Steve Coakley's and Dick Gregory's video, and they showed that clip, and he's describing his role in the whole thing. He was on the balcony, and he actually confesses right there that he stepped aside so as to give the shooters a clear shot. Okay, almost word for word.
Yeah.
Okay, so that those are two guys that right there that know it. In the case of Jesse Jackson, what Jesse did was there was a youth group, an activist group, kind of like a Black Panther type, young people there, the Invaders. They were there also in the Lorraine Motel. They had a room on one of the lower floors, whatever. They were armed. They were there to protect. They appointed themselves to be there to protect Dr. King. Jackson ordered them to go home that morning.
Yes.
There's no explanation as to why he did it. And most conspicuous of all, Jackson was not authorized to do that.
Right.
What was he? Jackson just another person there to them.
Right.
There's no connection between them. There's nothing where...
He was not in the hierarchy of the SCLC to tell someone the SCLC will not pay for your rooms, or you're going to have to leave. He was not part of that. He was not the field officer.
No.
He had other responsibilities, but
he had no authority whatsoever. Had no authority in the Lorraine Hotel. Nothing. Okay, but he did it. These are young guys and the Invaders, good intentions, but they've been their past is checkered with people infiltrating, being on their own program and basically ruining their name. Okay, but in this particular instance, it was feared that these people were going to come out and protect King. So careful plans were taken to make sure the hit squads could hit King without any return fire.
Yes.
And the way to do that was to get rid of the only armed group that was officially there protecting King, and that was the Invaders.
Right. Now, also, we have found out through research that Dr. King was not the only target of that day. There was supposed to be other murders that occurred on that balcony. Am I correct?
That's right. That's right. And here's the thing. I learned about this a couple of years ago, but that's what you said in the beginning. It's not common knowledge. We should be hearing more about this. Andrew Young was a target, and the Reverend Ralph Abernathy. Yeah, he was a target. These are King's two closest confidants.
Right.
Okay, two trustworthy men. And here's the thing. They obviously determined we can't buy these guys off. we can't buy these. We can't co-opt these guys. So we might as well kill them also.
Right.
And this will hurt the movement, the whole thing. Especially Andrew Young, being as young as he was. Bright future ahead as a UN ambassador as well as mayor of Atlanta or whatever. But it's just a horrible, horrible thing. The energy and the time and the money that was expended and the years of planning to get one guy who taught nonviolence, to do violence to one man who taught nonviolence.
Yes.
Okay, that shows you what a threat King was, and it should make you deeper, understand even more deeper what his potential could have been.
The influence of Dr. King, Chris, we're seeing today with the Occupy movement. That was first initiated by Dr. King's Poor People campaign.
Yes.
When he started moving, at the time of his assassination, the civil rights struggle was moving more towards a silver and economic struggle to alleviate poverty around not only this country but around the world. And he made a principled stance against the unlawful war in Vietnam.
Right.
All of those things made him a target of the United States government, which he had always been, because J. Edgar Hoover had already made him a principal person that the counterintelligence program of the United States government went after him and his movement day one, but it also made him an enemy of United States foreign policy, which many believe that Lyndon Baines Johnson and many others took that arm of protection away from him, that it enabled this to become almost a government contracted hit.
Oh yeah. Well, see, Johnson was on King's page because Johnson wasn't getting along with Kennedy's anyway.
Right.
Okay. You know, I can say right here safely that I do believe Johnson was a co-conspirator in the Kennedys, especially or JFK. Okay, that's just my speculation.
Right.
But you dig deep, you probably his name's gonna come up somewhere.
Right.
Now, he's the long as Dr. King is for desegregation and boycotts and everything, Johnson's like, hey, I'm listening. Okay, all right, and that was good. That's open-minded for a Texas redneck. All right, but here he's in Vietnam War. Man, that's our lifeblood. It's war.
Right.
You know. There's one other aspect. You mentioned some good things. Like you said, the Poor People's Campaign was a threat to them. King's stand on the Vietnam War was a threat to them. They were also, in that book, Orders to Kill, William Pepper, there were plans for him to run for president along with Dr. Benjamin Spock as his running mate. Okay? So it's somewhere along the line. Of course, we all know that RFK was beginning his campaign. Okay, so we don't know exactly when they would have run or they were going to run against him in the primary, but just the thought of that must have scared some people.
Right.
Okay, they're not thinking about Robert F. Kennedy at this point. They're thinking, this guy changed the world.
Right.
He's going to run for president now? No. Okay, so, you know, King had a lot of white liberals around him. A lot of blacks were behind him. But his last year of his life, a lot of black support was dwindling. That's another thing about it. You know, a lot of blacks showed up for his funeral. Okay, a lot of blacks were there for marches as days went on, as he took on the war stances, the anti-war stance and everything.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of blacks kind of like parted company. They kind of like moved back, like, I don't know.
Isn't that par for the course? A lot of people that are out here saying that they have a dream didn't have a murmur of the dream.
No, exactly.
Really did not support Dr. King with many of his stances. That this has always been part of the course. But when you're dead, all of a sudden everybody loves you.
Everybody loves you.
They want a part in the funeral, and you know, they try to manipulate your death as they were one of your allies, when many of them were not.
Right.
To this day, Jesse Jackson has basically built a career around being an associate of Dr. King. His whole career is based on that.
Yeah.
And his potential as a person is based on his association with Dr. King.
Yeah.
Yet, he has a strained relationship with the King family.
Exactly. Those families overall don't get along. They don't speak to each other, from my understanding. Jesse's big thing, and I didn't see it in Orders to Kill, but I've read quotes from Andrew Young and Dr. Abernathy. One commonality on Jesse regarding that incident. And they kind of make excuses for him, but still they noted about at some point Jesse ran up to Martin and drenched his hands in blood and smeared it over his clothes.
Right. And then he came out with a statement. Now, Memphis was locked down. After Dr. King died, you could not get in, you could not get out. There were no trains leaving, no planes leaving.
Right.
No trains allowed in, no planes allowed in.
Right.
Jesse Jackson got to Chicago and was on the Today Show the next
day. In front of City Council.
Yes.
Saying, hey.
With the bloody shirt on.
I got the bloody shirt on. I was like, as if I just flew in from a helicopter straight from here to there just now, and he died in my arms. Or whatever.
He cradled Dr. King's head, and he stated that Dr. King said to him, leave my people, Jesse. Let my people go free.
Yeah. Put some last words in his mouth.
Right. Now, later, it came out, and the description of the shot that Dr. King suffered, the shot was hit him right here, under the nose, which is really a marksman. That's a marksman shot. You're talking about in between the eyes. It hit him in his nose and severed his neck and spinal cord. There is no way in the world that Dr. King said very much of anything after that shot other than instant death. That he died instantly.
Yeah.
And the wound that he suffered.
Well, he didn't die instantly. He died on he died on the way. He died when he got to the hospital. He was still alive, but he couldn't speak.
Right.
Okay. But by the time Coretta got there, he was dead. By the time she got to the hospital, he was already dead. He didn't live long, but I think he still lived until they got to the hospital at some point.
And he was declared dead.
Right.
Well, that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's true.
You can be dead in the ambulance until the doctor declares you're dead. You're not dead.
Okay.
It has to be a legal professional to declare that life is not there. When that bullet hit him, his hands, Dr. King smoked cigarettes.
Okay.
His hands locked on that cigarette. His fingers locked on the cigarette. They removed the cigarette from his hands because it was not public. He only smoked with private people and people that were close to him.
Yeah.
And Merle McCullough, who was then, he was acting like he was put in that group to infiltrate the invaders. It was then found out that he was a military intelligence undercover officer. He was the one that checked the vital signs of Dr. King.
Okay.
And we don't know. I would assume that though he was not declared dead till he got to that hospital, I believe Dr. King died instantly.
Okay.
Yeah. Based on the shot. I don't think there's any way you can...
Well, Jesse will tell you, no, he lived long enough to hand over the mantle.
The reins of power.
Whatever you are right now, whatever I am, you're it, Jesse.
Well...
Oh, whatever. I'm a powerful man, so now you're powerful.
Understanding...
then he closes his eyes.
Yeah, and see, and that's where people need to come out of the dream world, Chris, with this, because ballistics will tell you that when a bullet enters the body, that hole is not the same hole when it exits. That's an explosion.
Yeah.
So if it entered here, it blew out the backside. If so that's a serious murder. There's no way he talked.
Right.
How could he? I don't even, for the bullet to hit here, I don't even think the wound is gaping.
Yeah, these are high-powered military. Yeah. These are all military people anyway. They're all, like I said, they're all posted.
Now, could a James Earl Ray even? This guy couldn't rob a drugstore. How could he?
No.
They claimed he stalked Dr. King. How could he follow him? There's no internet. There's no GPS. He didn't. Come on, are we stupid?
Yeah.
How could he stalk Dr. King? He couldn't even stalk. The guy got caught robbing a drugstore with one sheriff in the town. One. How could he pull off one of the great murders in 20th?
Well, that's the thing. I guess we have to accept mainstream media, okay, that James Earl Ray was just as much a sharpshooter as Lee Harvey Oswald.
Where was he trained?
Okay.
Where did he do training? Who took him under his wing? Raoul?
I don't know. I have no. That's a very good question.
What?
That's a very good question.
So none of the questions are asked. All of a sudden, names start appearing that it makes more sense. Carlos Marcello, Frank Liberto, Lloyd Jowers. These are names that could be complicit in the death of a leader, but also, as you said before, which is a key factor, is that that's just one group. This Alpha 184 group was there, and probably Memphis' own hit squad, a sniper unit was there. Which one pulled the fatal shot? Has a name been mentioned?
There was a name that Dick Gregory mentioned. I can give here right here. The man who was seen leaping over the hedges, the tall hedges. grass, whatever, the fence.
Now let's talk about the hedges first.
Yeah.
The hedges were mysteriously removed. Have you
Mysteriously-
ever heard of a crime scene of this nature? This is one of the biggest assassinations of the 20th century.
That's right.
Have you ever heard of a crime scene being touched in any way?
Not
And
like
they allowed these hedges to be
no, because you know
steamrolled.
that's like taking away the grassy knoll.
Yes.
Okay, it's like removing the grassy knoll. All right. Yeah, I got tall hedges in front of my house. You see that? Somebody shoots me, they remove the hedges. You know something's up. Okay, that's very conspicuous.
Why would they allow a crime scene to be changed? I've never heard of that.
No.
A crime scene will stay there until.
Just stay there.
And you can't tell me, unless you know for sure all evidence, you don't allow a crime scene to be touched. You don't allow a person to come in that area. You don't allow people to go out.
Well, listen. What day was Martin Luther King shot?
April the 4th.
Why was it that no search was found for a killer until April 17th?
I don't know.
That's another thing. A lot of people don't know that. They didn't start searching for a killer until April 7th. This, of course, in between the riots and everything going on. But still, it's the police's job, it's the law enforcement's job to find a killer immediately after the shooting. Somebody did it. You know somebody pulled the trigger. Wait, let's get this guy. Okay? In between there, they were setting you up for who the guy was. Then we're going to go after him. That's what it was. You got a steady diet of James Earl Ray under I think his name was Eric Galt or something like that. He had another he was identified by another name. Then the name evolved into James Earl Ray. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody with no training, but they were started framing him as a notorious racist.
Right.
Okay, this all in William Pepper's book. Okay, he was a man who's known to hate blacks. You know, he go into bars, get drunk, and make black jokes.
There is no evidence whatsoever that James L. Ray was nothing more than a 2-bit criminal. And I mean 2-bit, not 3-bit, 2-bit.
Now, does it take 2 weeks to look for a 2-bit criminal?
No!
Does it take 2 weeks to look?
How did he get to London?
Well,
How?
Hey.
You can't. Memphis was locked down.
He won the lottery. Hey, I think I'll visit
But
London.
we believe this.
That's the thing.
You believe that this 2-bit idiot. And that's what he was.
Yeah.
And then when they got him in a room and coerced him or drugged him into confession. And they made him think, if you plead guilty, we'll get you out on appeal. This is how stupid he was.
Sure.
This is not a smart person.
No.
He probably said, you think that's going to work? Yeah, don't worry. Plead guilty now. Then when all the evidence is reviewed, you'll be released.
You'll be released.
Okay.
But you can walk anywhere you want to. People knowing that you're the killer king. Come back anytime. Don't go to the black community.
Yeah, that's not the place to go.
don't get But yeah, you'll be set for life.
Well, we're going to have to talk more about this, and we need to talk about some of the people. The results of the aftermath of Dr. King's death is something this nation has not seen before. The only time it came close was after the Rodney King beatings, where America got sick and tired of how poor people and poverty-stricken people are being treated.
Right.
America was set on fire, and young blacks said they didn't realize that the King murder led to a feeling of, you killed a man that preached nothing but peace and to love one another.
Exactly.
That ain't working.
That's
you
not working.
killed him.
Yeah.
So we might as well burn, baby, burn.
Burn, baby, burn. That's it. That's it.
I was 5 years old, and I was in school in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember teachers were nervous all day long.
Sure.
They chained the door shut to my school, Ann Beers,
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C., and let us out early. They said gangs were forming.
Yeah.
Gangs weren't forming. These were our people,
Yeah.
sick and tired of this government mistreating
Yeah.
those that are innocent. And you killed a person that
Sure.
told us to love thy neighbor.
Well, you know the thing about, I was 10 years old when it happened, and I remember the riots on Jefferson Avenue, around Clinton Avenue, and the projects and all that. We didn't live far. We lived on Eagle Street at that time, which is just a couple of blocks away. And I remember the backlash from white people. You know, we go to Como Park and everything, and white people say, "Hey, you know, you people are ruining. You're tearing up neighborhoods." All white people think about is when they see a riot is real estate. It's, oh, you're messing up your neighborhoods, or you're tearing up things. That's all they think about. Okay, they don't think about thousands of hundreds, 2,000 years of their own bullshit,
Yes.
colonialism and all that stuff. Which is what we do in our neighborhoods is minuscule by comparison.
Right.
All right, but that was the thinking back then.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you talk about you were 5-year-old the King thing. I was 5 years old when Kennedy was shot. I remember that. You know, but you know, the King, that was scary time.
It's a powder keg igniting.
Powder keg igniting, and I remember a few months later, RFK got shot.
Right.
Scary times. I will never forget that. You know, all in the same year, and from the standpoint of a young black boy in Buffalo, the thing in my mind, in the back of my mind to this day is, if you just straight up honest and do the right thing, they're going to kill you.
Yes. And
that was the impression left upon me.
That precipitated feeling
Yeah.
scared this nation to
Sure,
its very
sure.
roots. Because young people said that you killed the Prince of Love.
Sure.
He said to love you?
Yeah.
Burn, baby, burn. How can I love someone that you kill a person that preached love?
Yep.
It's time to burn this
Yeah.
mother down.
You kill a person, and understand the criticism that King was getting from people in the far black left. Okay, they liked him. They acknowledged his accomplishments, but his emphasis on, they were getting tired of the emphasis on nonviolence.
Right.
And so we didn't expect King to get shot then, because
Right.
King had survived Montgomery bus boycott. Okay, survived all the bombings, you know, Birmingham, you know, all that.
And
Okay,
King was the safe alternative, remember?
right to Malcolm,
Malcolm, Huey Newton,
yeah,
H-Rap Brown,
Snick.
Stokely Carmichael,
You know,
and Snick.
yeah,
He
yeah.
kept Snick under wrap. He was
Yeah.
the one who kept them loving
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
if you remember, the counterintelligence program of the United States government, as a result, after the King's assassination and the burning of the cities, they went aggressively after the Black Panther Party, which had started their free breakfast program, and they infiltrated it, and they used a person who we talked about before,
Yeah,
the corruption of Malana Ron Karenga,
yeah,
and the upscale usage of his program with us
yeah.
as a rival to the Black Panther Party, and create
Yeah.
a war to get at the Black Panther Party. All of this ties in together with the evil activity of the American intelligence society against its own citizens of
Very much so.
Africans.
Very much so. And they've always used one black, an evil black, to accomplish their. Instead of doing that, they say we don't have to look bad anymore in doing stuff.
Right.
Okay.
And people give them. What gets me, Buffalo, and now we're filming this in Buffalo. We understand it's being seen over the internet. But Buffalo has become a stronghold of one of the most corrupt infiltrators of your movement, and giving him a free pass with Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
This guy's a criminal.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the felonies he committed against his own members. I'm talking about the felonies he committed against the rise of your own self and the damage he did on behalf of the United States government to the Black Panther Party.
Well, it's the same style. They used him the same way the recording industry used Suge Knight.
Yes.
Okay? You had, before Suge Knight, you had a lot of conscious rap lyrics. And when NWA came out with F the Police, and
Right.
Ice-T came out with Cop Killer, right around the Rodney King riots and everything, they said, okay, that's it. What they did is the recording industry suits went into the smoky rooms and says, we got to invent what eventually...
Gangster rap.
Gangster rap. Okay? And a lot of people, NWA invented gangster rap, but from a different perspective. The recording industry perverted it into something ugly and deadly. And they appointed Suge Knight to decadent behavior.
And he reached out.
East Coast to West Coast.
He reached out and recruited one that had the greatest potential in the rap industry as a conscious rapper.
As a conscious rapper.
Tupac Shakur.
Exactly.
Who was a good friend at the time of a guy called Biggie on the East Coast and created East Coast, West Coast.
Exactly. They always find a trouble-minded.
We got to talk more about that.
And also next week we'll reveal who the killer of Martin Luther King was.
Yes. So
the
tune in to the network. That's all for us here. This week we're talking about some deep stuff as we talk about the results of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King and its aftermath. These are subjects that have to be talked about. That's all for us here. I'm Pat Freeman. It's my buddy Chris Stevenson.
We're out of here.
Give them your blog address so they can get more information.
BuffaloBullet.com, or you can reach me on Twitter, pointblank009, and I go by the same address on Facebook.
All right, that's all for us here on the network. We'll see you next week as we continue behind the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King and events that led up to it and its aftermath and how it affected the African community here in this country and around the world. We'll be back next week. All right, Chris.
All right, Patrick.